I'll get started. For our panel, we have Amir, who received his BS in chemical engineering from California State University, Long Beach, so very close to us. He worked at Phillips 66 for 2 years as a health and safety specialist and previously worked for Cal OSHA Process Safety Management Unit as a safety engineer for 2 years. Let me actually share the bio, so some of you that like to read along with me can read along as well. So there's Amir. And then Oscar here received his mechanical engineering degree from UCLA and served at Phillips 66 in various roles over the last 11 years. Oscar has experience in health and safety, project engineering, mechanical integrity, and is currently working in operations. And we also have Rachel. Rachel here received her BS in chemical engineering from Missouri University of Science and Technology, where she also participated in collegiate softball. She has worked at Phillips 66 for just over a year, first as a process engineer and currently as a unit engineer. And we also have Juliana, who is with us today. Let me pull up Juliana's bio. Juliana has a much more extensive bio, so we'll highlight a couple of parts here. So Juliana is kind of the person who helped us organize all of this. So she is a seasoned external relations strategist. For over a decade, Juliana's mission has been focused on impacting and reducing the information gap and inequities that afflict disadvantaged communities. She is responsible for enhancing philanthropy efforts in the community, leading media relations, implementing market campaigns, and optimizing public messaging. In her role, she's further pursued her passion for helping others and giving back to the community by implementing grassroots efforts that drive social change and improve public health and safety. That's awesome. I'm so excited by, by your background here also, Juliana. So we have some great people that have all of these different kind of backgrounds that work at Phillips 66 right next door to us. So I will stop sharing and then I will turn it over to Amir. I believe you're going to be first to introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely. First, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's having a pretty good day today. So just to give a little background on myself. So my background is in chemical engineering, like just mentioned, from Cal State Long Beach. I've pretty much lived in Southern California for most of my life. High school wise, I went to Peninsula High School, but I graduated from Redondo Union, so pretty local. And career wise, so right after college, I started my career with Cal OSHA's Process Safety Management Unit as a safety engineer, which I was in for about 2 years. And in that job, it was essentially just going to different oil refineries in the state of California and auditing for compliance with different safety regulations, primarily process safety. When I say process safety, the intent of that is to prevent refinery chemical releases and fires. In that role, I was really able to learn a lot about refining in general, as well as the topic of safety. And at the same time, was able to make an impact towards safer operations at the facilities that I visited. So after doing that for about a couple of years, I joined the Phillips 66 team at the Los Angeles refinery as a health and safety specialist. So in this current role, I primarily maintain the safety programs for the refinery. I do periodic audits, and I also investigate incidents that happen at the refinery, whether they're process safety incidents or employee injuries. My educational background has allowed me to branch into different special assignments throughout my time here at Phillips 66. So most recently, I spent earlier this year about 4 months in our business optimization department, in the optimizing and planning of crude oils, as well as working on our Solomon refining metric study, where we kind of compare our metrics to all the refineries across the globe. And so just some advice that I kind of have to students. In college, don't be afraid to learn about yourselves and, change career paths if you have to. You're not stuck when you first select your major. When I was in college, I saw people changing their majors all the time. It's really important that you go for something that you enjoy doing. And also, you want to start networking while you're in college too. So think of when you start college is when the job hunt kind of starts. So whether it be going to job fairs, resume workshops, or getting some summer internship experience, you want to take advantage of all those opportunities that come your way. All right, so I guess next we'll pass it on to Oscar.
All right. Hi, everyone. Like Amir said, my name is Oscar. I grew up in Gardena, which is about 8.5 miles north of here. I went to Gardena High and then did some things, and then eventually ended up at El Camino College. So I didn't go straight to the university. I was at El Camino for a little over 2.5 years. And then transferred from there to UCLA. I was at UCLA for another 2+ years. And then I ended up getting a job here. So I've been here now for about 12 years. I've worked in several different departments. I think what happened was they put me in a job in a department. I sucked. So they're like, yeah, let's move this dude over here and see if he does better. So they did this to me a couple times, and now I'm in the operations department. So although I'm a mechanical engineer, I think I might have the job of a chemical engineer. So a part of my day is spent doing things that'll make Rachel's life more difficult. So yeah, we work together, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, I guess that means I'm next. So my name is Rachel Ardo. I'm a little bit different. I am from Chicago, Illinois. Not typically from California, but my mom grew up here, so that's how I ended up out here. I, in high school, absolutely loved math and chemistry, so that's kind of how I decided to become a chemical engineer. I didn't really know what it was when I decided to go to college. I kind of just picked it and went with it, and it ended up working out for the best. But yeah, that's how I got my major. And then I ended up at Missouri Science and Technology, which is a lot smaller of a school, and it is focused on just science and tech majors. So we didn't have really any other majors except for engineering and biology and stuff. And so that's kind of different from everybody else. They went to some big schools, but there's a lot of different schools out there, not just your typical ones that you always hear about, but there's thousands of schools out there with different majors. I also played softball in college. So I did engineering and played a sport, which I think is pretty cool. I played Division II, so nothing too crazy. But once I was in college, I took a couple internships in Missouri before landing with Phillips 66 in Los Angeles, where I interned in the summer of 2019, and then hired on about 6 months later as a full-time. I've been with the company for about a year and a couple months now. And in that time, I started out as a process engineer, which is doing like design work. So if you drive by a refinery, you see a bunch of pipes and a bunch of vessels. That group works on designing at what temperature and pressures they should run at. And then I moved into operations, which is also what Oscar's in. So that's why we work together a lot, where I do utilities engineer. So basically steam, water, air, any utilities you can think of. I work to reduce the consumption of that. So that's why I'm always bothering Oscar, I guess. And that's a bit about me.
Juliana, do you want to go and talk about yourself a little bit?
I'll be super brief. My name is Juliana. I am public affairs here, help to coordinate all of this. We mostly want to hear from you all and questions about kind of what you're looking into. We're right next door to you all. If you don't recognize the Phillips 66 shield, you may recognize us by that big bright orange tank that you see down the hill. We host a Halloween event and we paint a jack-o'-lantern on there every year. There we go, that thing. Have you all seen, raise your hand if you've seen that.
I remember
that orange tank at your, like, there you go. Okay, perfect. So those that aren't sharing their videos, would love to see you all as we get the conversation going. Very brief about me. I've been at Phillips 66 2 years. Again, I manage all our public affairs. I handle a lot of the community engagement. So I get to do all of the fun work, and these guys get to stay here and do all the real work. That's pretty much all I'll say. Before this, I was with the State Department. It's a federal government job for 10 years. And that's me in a nutshell. So we can turn it back over to Leslie for questions.
Yes, thank you everyone for your awesome introductions. I think that you guys did a great job kind of talking about like, how do you get here and all of the, classes that you took. Maybe if you haven't, if you want to touch on a little bit more, right, since you already kind of talked about college, right, if somebody is interested in maybe engineering, right, and they're not maybe sure right now in high school of what engineering really is, what classes would you recommend taking in high school and in college to really kind of figure out if they want to do chemical engineering or just engineering in general, or maybe what extracurriculars would you recommend?
So I guess in the field of chemical engineering, like Rachel mentioned, the two main branches to that is math and chemistry. So during your high school time, if you kind of really enjoy and you're pretty good at the math classes that you're taking, as well as have interest in kind of what you're learning in the chemistry class, that's probably an indication that you would enjoy like a chemical engineering type career. So those two are kind of the main two classes. If you want to get a little bit of ahead and take some AP courses, I recommend you guys take AP Calculus, because that actually gets you college credit for that. So that once you start at college, you're already just a little bit ahead in terms of that.
So the other thing too, that if I can add to what Amir said, physics. So either chemistry, taking your chemistry classes, or physics, that can kind of help you decide which, whether you like electrical, you want to pursue electrical engineering or mechanical. Because in physics, right, you'll have to deal with statics and dynamics. If you don't like that at all, but you like the electricity and magnetism, you might be, you might want to get into electrical engineering. You like the chemical classes, vice versa. So yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of gauge. But you need math, physics, and chemistry for pretty much all engineering classes or coursework.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah. So I teach calculus. I'm always a big fan of like, yes, take all the math out there, right? And math sometimes in college can be like overwhelming. So I think, yeah, starting off in high school and trying to, get as many of those courses in as possible, I think is super important. Let's see, maybe is there anything that you know now that you wish that you knew when you were graduating from high school? Would you have done anything differently? Kind of what, if you could go back in time and tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself?
I don't think that one thing specifically relates to me, but I've seen it throughout a lot of engineering in general, is the assumption that you have to know exactly what you want to do in high school. That is so untrue in every way. I know people that change their major 6 times, and it's really just up to you. You can try something out and determine you don't like it, and it's super easy to switch your major. It's not that big of a deal. Your freshman year, you're taking most of your general education courses, so everyone's taking basically the same classes. So you have all that time to figure out like, hey, maybe this wasn't for me, and that's okay. I think that's probably a big misconception in college.
Yeah, another thing, back to the AP classes. So one thing that I learned, starting in college, all of those courses that you take are like either semester or quarter. So they're down to like, you're taking like a whole class in a few months time period. But when you're taking, let's say like an AP class, that's like a year long, 2 semesters, you have more time to kind of delve into that. So that was kind of something that was put into perspective for me after I started college. So I was like, oh, wow, it's actually good that I took AP Calculus in high school, because if I didn't take that year long, I would have come into college, taken it in like 3-4 months. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. I kind of always forget that, of like that's a transition from high school to college. And I always recommend like take, the AP class, like AP calculus in high school, and then even retake it in college. Just a different kind of experience, right? And just building up on those fundamentals. Awesome. Let's see. So maybe kind of switching gears a little bit, talking about your job. Like, what do you love most about your job? What's your favorite part of your daily sort of job that you do?
So I guess me, I like the fact that with the jobs that we currently work in this particular industry, in a refining setting, it's so complex to the point that there's so many moving parts, which means the whole organization kind of has to work together. So there's kind of a lot of communication throughout the day through meetings and just talking to people from different departments. So being able to do that, not just so much sit in front of the computer all day and do your own work and leave. There's kind of that social aspect to it. So I guess for me, that's what I enjoy.
So yeah, along with what Amir said, what I like is learning to see how things work, right? So I like going outside and going inside of these tanks and vessels and seeing how they work inside. Or sometimes there's a pump that's not working well. So we'll take it out and take it to the shop to get worked on, and it gets taken apart, and I look at how it works. And now when it's back working again, I know on the inside what's going on, and that really helps out later if we're having a problem. We can kind of use that. So I really enjoy doing that. So it's kind of like taking stuff apart, and then I don't have to worry about putting it back together. Somebody else that knows much more than I do is going to do that for me. So.
I guess I'll chime in now too. I think one thing that we can all agree on is that there is never a boring day in a refinery. We're constantly busy, constantly always learning. I think that's a big key. Is like I've worked here for a year and I feel like I've learned so much in just that 1 year. But I feel like even people I talk to who've been here for 20 years are still always learning something. So just endless options to go into for jobs and technical background. So I think it's a really cool thing to learn.
Just to chime in there very quickly, I just wanted you all to share. I was joking when I said that my colleagues here stay here at the facility and do all the work. They actually do participate in community events and help us out with events such as this one. But if you all like to kind of get involved in your community, our organization actually supports it, and they provides opportunities to do that so we can go out and participate in panel discussions. Rachel, do you want to share a little bit about what you did kind of last or summer before that when you were still interning?
Yeah, so I've been able to work with Juliana a lot actually through volunteering programs that we have set up. We do a lot of STEM or STEAM nights, I guess it's STEAM now, with students throughout all ages. Last summer, we worked with the Boys and Girls Club, and we ended up handing out little baggies of different STEAM items. So just fun things for people to learn that involve your science, math, and just everything. We also do a lot of fundraisers where we donate items. We've donated food to homeless shelters. We just recently donated toys to the YMCA, which was an awesome outing. Yeah, so just lots of areas to go into. And I think that's probably one of the things that I've enjoyed most that I didn't know I would, was being able to volunteer and get involved with a lot of different organizations.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I think I want to take a moment right now to thank you all for, not just putting your time this afternoon to talk to all of us, but kind of giving back and helping our school out a lot. Sue was kind of sharing, and I know that you guys have done kind of a lot of philanthropy in the community and with our school, helping cover a grant for the STEM week and this STEM Expo, and helping us with trying to get our community ready after COVID-19 hit, right? Like none of us were prepared, and we're all just scrambling to figure out stuff. And I think that we really appreciated getting some help from our neighbors in that. So thank you very much to you all for your time, for your giving back to us. Which I guess leads us into kind of the question, like, how has your job changed over this last year in response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, so a lot of our meetings that we used to have in person, which was a lot, have like shifted to WebEx and just computer-based meetings due to the CDC guidelines of not being able to gather and the whole social distancing. And at our facility, we require mask usage at all times unless you're in an office by yourself. So as soon as the pandemic started, there was this work from home option that we had for a couple of months. So that was an interesting transition from being at the plant setting every day to doing your work every day from home. But after a few months, the site took some time to establish what are some of the controls we need to put in place to get employees back here and have everyone get back to that collaboration mode of being able to talk to each other. So that's one of the kind of interesting impacts that COVID had on our facility.
Awesome. Anybody else want to jump in with any of that?
I'm kind of an outlier, I guess. I started right when COVID started, so my life has been pretty steadily COVID in the work industry.
It's kind of all you've known, right?
Yeah, so for me, I never got the work from home option. I would work from work and then also work a little bit from home so I could leave a little early. But yeah, just the interactions with people. I mean, you're having to be socially distanced. Sometimes it's a little difficult when you're in the plant where it's really loud. It's hard to be heard, right? Sometimes you have to just write up something out and show it to them so they can hear you, because it was right when everyone was, there was a lot of skepticism about COVID, so you didn't want to get too close to people you weren't too comfortable with. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at a school setting, obviously it's changed a lot. I mean, I'm still like teaching virtually from home. We have a lot of students that are kind of doing some from home, some from school, doing this hybrid thing. So it kind of makes us think about like, we're just ending the school year in like 3 months, or sorry, 3 weeks or so. Do you think that, where do you think this industry is heading? Do you think that, things are just going to go back to normal of how they were? Do you think that things are going to change? Do you think the industry in general is going to be changing at all?
I don't think we'll ever get back to like the complete normal that we were beforehand, because I think really during the pandemic, a lot of businesses probably learned through having to adapt what are some of the different ways we can operate. And they probably saw some benefits from some of the more virtual meetings or whatever different things that they had to change within their organization to adapt. So I think we'll probably gradually see a small steps towards what we used to consider normal. But I think long term, we might take a couple of things that we liked from what we had to do and keep that long term.
Okay, thank you. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens in the next, couple years. Yes, and if anybody else has any questions too, please feel free to ask. Don't hesitate. No question is too small.
So do you know anything about the operations outside of this plant? Because I'm pretty sure Phillips 66 owns other plants.
Yeah, so we have refineries actually all over, and Phillips 66 is not just refining. We have refining, which is what you see when you drive past our plant, and we have locations all throughout the US. We have Texas, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, everywhere. anywhere you could think of. And that goes with any refining company. They have locations everywhere. But we also have midstream offices, which they deal more with the underground pipelines that you never see, obviously, but someone works on them somewhere. So those offices are also scattered everywhere because they have to get gas from the refinery to airports or somewhere. So yeah, all kinds of different locations out there for us.
Yeah, and essentially what every refinery does is everyone is pretty much converting crude oil into jet, diesel, and gasoline products. So most of the processes that you'll see at every single refinery is essentially the same. Different plants will just be different size, so they'll have different capacities and maybe slight different configuration, what type of units that they have or run.
Aiden, did that answer your question?
Yeah, but it was more of like a follow-up to another question. If you're going to set up a new refinery, at which point do you decide an oil pocket or a gas pocket is too small to be extracted or to be profitable?
So I don't think a refinery isn't, they're not typically built for a specific pocket. Some of them were like historically, right? Like there's one in Santa Maria in Central California. That one was built to take San Joaquin crude that comes from that area. But like our refinery here is can take crude from everywhere because we're close to the ocean. So you just bring it in on a boat and bring it in. I don't think you'll see many more, if any, refineries built in the U.S. anymore. I think the refineries that are already built in the U.S. can handle at this point all the crude oil that it needs to process.
So they don't need to be built next to the resource rich areas.
Correct. Now there may be projects where like let's say an existing refinery wants to process a little bit more crude, and they'll go into like, hey, how much will it cost to upgrade this refinery, and then how much are we going to make off of this? Is it worth it? So they'll look at that, but they won't build a whole new refinery. At least I don't think so in my lifetime.
Yeah, and just to add to what Oscar is saying, in terms of like we're probably not going to see any refineries being built anytime anymore, because of the fact, like he said, that all the refineries that are currently built can handle the demand of consumers. Just to kind of put it in perspective for you, this refinery specifically, we just celebrated our 100-year anniversary about 2 years ago. So most of the refineries that you'll see around at least the United States or even around the world are decades, if not a century old.
Thank you, Aiden, for your question. Anybody else have any other questions to add? I guess I had one that kind of made me think a little bit as you guys were kind of talking about this, like with maybe, do you guys see kind of a change in the need for refineries as there's different types of energy consumption, or they're trying to kind of change the, I don't even know how to describe my sentence, but like, do you see like maybe a less of a need of refineries, or how's that changing?
Yeah, so it looks like our world's kind of shifting into we want to see a little more renewable energy versus like fossil fuel based energy. So instead of, just saying that the need for refining will be less, you'll see refining companies adapting to that. So they'll adapt their own process to be that new process. So just to give you an example, our Rodeo refinery is currently an active oil refining facility, but is currently in the process of transitioning into a renewables plant. So what that means is that facility will be processing greases, oils, and fats and converting them into jet fuel, diesel, and gasoline. So you'll probably see a lot more of retrofitting as time goes on versus them just kind of shutting down and not being used.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that too, I think a big thing in especially the California area is the transition to electric cars or electric vehicles. That is obviously on everybody's mind. But I think the big thing to think about is no matter what, like even if we start to transition that way, like gasoline, jet, it's all still going to be needed. It's going to be a very slow transition. I do think we are ready to adjust to that. But I also do think that we're going to be around for a very long time. And that electric cars is only just a small item that'll eventually become bigger, but I think we'll be prepared for that as a company. I think I covered that.
Thank you. I mean, I think that it's, as you kind of mentioned, and maybe one of the themes of sort of our talk is how many things are constantly changing, whether it's your own kind of job itself and you're learning it, or the whole company that has to change and adapt to stuff, or this whole COVID-19 having to change to, what our daily jobs kind of look like. So maybe I guess I mean, one of the qualities I would think that would make somebody good at your job or any job is being adaptable and kind of learning on the spot. Are there other qualities that you think are good that you would suggest that people kind of work on, or make sure that they, like, a job is going to be really looking for?
Yeah, so first and foremost, like you said, adaptability is a real key one, because we're in an industry that constantly is changing the methods of, not really the process, but how we do things. And adaptability really goes a long way in kind of easing into those changes and, being for that change instead of being against that change. So that's one really good one. Another good one is just communication skills and being able to interact with folks with different backgrounds and just that are involved in different job scopes than you are. I think in our industry that those are probably some essential ones. I don't know, Oscar, Rachel, if you have anything to add to that.
And I said we have an answer a question on the chat window. Amir, did you want to, or Amir or Rachel, do you guys want to take that on?
Okay, hold on, let me read the chat. I'd love to hear questions. I do not see
Actually, is it Zakia? How do you pronounce your name?
Yes. So I wasn't sure if it was an appropriate question. So that's why I sent it to you first. But I saw on the news today that gas prices have gone up about 7% across the nation. And I just wanted to know, what might be some of the causes, and is this the new normal?
Yeah, so without getting too in depth, I think it's just very important to know that gas will respond like the rest of the economy. So if what you are using to increase or what you are using to produce gasoline, that price increases, obviously our gas prices are going to increase. So recently crude has been increasing, the price of crude. And then when Texas had that big power outage, the natural gas prices spiked crazily. So that also rose the prices of gasoline, because what we paid to put in, we obviously have to get out. So I think that is a big thing. And just the economy is starting to rise again, especially with COVID and vaccines coming out. People are traveling more, people are driving around more, people are going back to work. So just the demand's increasing. So obviously we see a price spike there too.
Awesome, thank you. Did anybody else have any other questions that you wanted to ask? Well, we have just kind of a couple minutes left over, so maybe I'll kind of turn it back to you all to kind of say any kind of last pieces of information you'd like to share, any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us all.
And I did have a video that I shared in the chat in case you had time to feature that. It's about 3 minutes. Maybe you guys can take a quick 30-second closure and then maybe we can feature that video.
Yeah, sure, we could do that. Sorry, did you want me to pull up the video now, or do you want to go around?
Amir,
and
do
do a
you guys
closer
each want to just go through quick 30-second, how to like close it up, and then we can have a video featured? Amir, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so just like I said earlier, you guys are in a time period where, you know, you're going to be going into college soon, right? So you want to take the experiences that you learn in high school and take them to college. And trust me, when you get to college, there's going to be a lot more learning. So don't think that, you know, you're going to walk in there and expected to know so much. And the same goes when you start working too. I mean, going to college, you're essentially what you're doing is you're demonstrating that you have the skills to complete whatever you have to complete throughout your curriculum. But once you enter to the workforce, it's probably going to be a shock that you are going to have to learn so much more, and that's okay. That's pretty much expected with probably any career choice that you guys go with.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add is you also want to maintain if you go to college, you know, your entire time can be taken up by doing homework and studying. You also want to take a little bit of time out for yourself, whether it's for some kind of exercise or some kind of sport or something. It really helps you to de-stress a little bit with schoolwork, and then, you know, get out some frustration and then get back to it, and it makes you study a little harder and maybe a little bit more focused. So yeah, keep yourself a well-rounded person that way.
I think I'm last. So yeah, I think everyone's covered a lot, which is really great. And I think the only things that I really have to add are just pick something that you're going to enjoy. Because we get a lot of people that end up going into engineering, they're like, man, I just really don't like it. And that's okay. But just make sure that's something that you're going to like, because you're going to do it for a very long time. And also with that, pick a college that you'll like. Or if you don't want to go to college, don't go to college, do trade school, do something, you know, you don't have to like pick something just because you think, oh, it's going to be a great major. No, do something that you like and go to a school that you'll enjoy. Not just for the school aspect, but also for maybe like intramurals or other things that you want to do. Get some minors. I have minors in other things that are engineering related. So I think that's something, there's a lot out there. So just really look into it and figure out what you want.
Thank you so much again. We are kind of at the time. Juliana, do you want me to watch the video still? We could do that one. Yeah. Okay. Maybe before we do the video, Aiden and Gabby and Sue, if you're able to turn your cameras on, we just want to do a screenshot to kind of advertise all of this great sort of talk that we had. And then we will do our video that will be starting up in 1 second. Okay, there we go, screenshot. And let me share my screen, do the little video to kind of wrap us up here. Make sure I'm doing my sound video clip. Here we are.
Manufacturing and logistics company.
Okay.
We make products that
me
provide energy and improve lives.
Sorry, let me restart it real quick.
66.
There we go. Hopefully you guys are all
And we're
here.
a growing energy manufacturing and logistics company. We make products that provide energy and improve lives. But what does that mean? Phillips 66 is involved in every aspect of making crude oil, natural gas, and natural gas liquids into products people use every day, and getting those products to market where businesses and families can use them. You might say we're the makers and movers. Maybe the best way to understand what we do is to show you. We produce the energy for cooking and heating your home, and the chemicals that make up plastics and other materials in everyday items where you live, work, and play. We don't drill for oil and gas, but our role begins almost as soon as it comes out of the ground. Our midstream segment is how we move crude oil, refined products, natural gas, and natural gas liquids to where they're needed. Through our DCP Midstream joint venture, We process natural gas and natural gas liquids to power businesses, heat homes, and provide raw materials to the petrochemical industry. Our CP Chem joint venture is the chemicals component of our business, and it's where we use those raw materials to make petrochemicals, polymers, and plastics that are used in things like cars, food packaging, electronics, and thousands of other items people use every day. Phillips 66 is one of the largest refiners in the United States and around the world. We process crude oil into different products to meet our customers' energy needs, like gasoline, diesel, aviation fuel, and propane. And consumers know us best from our international network of fuel stations. Our marketing group provides fuel to people every day through about 10,000 retail gas stations in the US and Europe. Our lubricants are also sold in about 65 countries. We also make specialty products, including base oil, petroleum coke, waxes, solvents, and polypropylene. These are used to make things like adhesives, rubber, sports equipment, and roofing products. And we take care of the communities where we live and work. We invest in education and literacy, community safety and preparedness, and the environment and sustainability. Our people are active in their communities and make a difference as volunteers and leaders. We're excited about our company. We're investing, we're building, and we are growing. Making and moving. At Phillips 66, it's what we do. How we do it is by living out our core values every day. Safety. We protect each other, our environment, and our communities. Honor. We stand behind our word, and you can count on us to do the right thing, always. And commitment. We're inspired to achieve the highest levels of performance in everything we do. It's how we conduct business, day in and day out. We are Phillips 66, providing energy, improving lives.
All right, that was an awesome video. I wish we had started with that. So thank you again to all of you that donated your time to talk to us. Hopefully, students, you learned something. And then I think that's it for today. So thank you very much for everybody that joined, and it was wonderful meeting you all.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.
Guy, thank you so much. Bye. Thank you, everybody.